Hello, welcome and thank you for listening. This contemplation will be made up of 3 meditations, each followed by a period of silence for private thought or prayer. Between each section, you may like to pause the recording for 3 or 4 minutes for quiet reflection. The subject for our contemplation throughout Advent this year is incarnation, and in this contemplation, we'll explore the way God's infinite love is expressed through incarnation. I thought that we might start with what the Bible says about love, and I've chosen as our text one of the most popular passages dealing with love, St. Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, verses 1 to 8, which I'll read at the beginning of each of the 3 meditations. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. So what does this passage express about love? There is a human scale to what St. Paul says. He talks about kindness and patience and politeness, not being irritable or resentful. All good advice for the wayward Corinthians and for us in our day-to-day lives. How can we relate this to God's infinite, mind-stretching love? Is there anything that we can take from these words that says something fundamental about love, whether we're God or human? Take the qualities I've just mentioned: patience, kindness, not being irritable or resentful. To do all of these things, we have to step back, to let go of our selfish needs, our own urge for self-preservation, and to put another person before ourselves. Each of these qualities requires a certain level of sacrifice of our own desires in favour of another's. What about God's love? The fact of his incarnation, God's presence here on earth, perhaps has a lot to tell us about the quality of his love. There is no pomp and circumstance to God's physical presence here on earth, but the complete opposite. Born into poverty in a stable, the servant of all, armed with a basin and a towel, choosing a donkey on which to ride into Jerusalem, dying the death of a criminal. As Brian McLaren of the Centre for Action and Contemplation says, in Christ, God is the supreme healer, the supreme friend, the supreme lover, the supreme life-giver, who self-empties in gracious love for all. And it's in this self-emptying that we see the connection with the self-sacrifice of love spoken of in the Corinthians passage. In Jesus, we have our example of perfect sacrifice, of perfect stepping back from the human ego that was a full part of him. Human acts of patience, kindness, generosity, loving thy neighbour as thyself, however small, have a God-given source in Christ. In Christ, you also are being built into a dwelling place of God in the Spirit, as St. Paul says in Ephesians. We are made to love, and to live with Jesus as our example. Paul, this time to the Philippians, tells us, in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Jesus is our template, our compass. You and I are called to do the same as him. But this certainly doesn't come naturally to human beings who are programmed to survive. Alongside being created to love, we are also programmed to look after number one. This is a necessary part of us, and it's God-given. It's what gets us up in the mornings. It's what drives us to achieve things, to survive, so that we can love. Taking a cue from airline safety, it's the please place the oxygen mask over your own mouth and nose before assisting others rule. That belief that we're in charge is at the heart of, yes, so much human good, but also so much of human hate, arrogance and pride, which separate us from God. Finding our way back to God, this is our journey, our life's journey, to hand over control to God. And these seemingly small lettings go, described in Corinthians, as we are kind, patient, polite, as we don't insist that we're right, as we see each other's point of view, as we turn away from being resentful or boastful or irritable, are how we learn to love more perfectly. And the more perfectly we love, the closer we get to God and the incarnation of his love, Jesus Christ. In a moment, we'll pause to give you an opportunity for a few moments of silence. If you would like to ponder on something in your own life that might be causing you conflict or irritation, however small, how might consciously stepping back from it change the situation? How does it feel to truly let go right now and trust that God will show you the way? Spend a few minutes in silent reflection now. The next part of our contemplation moves to another aspect of God's incarnation on earth, creation. We'll be looking at how God's sacrificial love is expressed through his creation. I'll now read the Corinthians verses a second time. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all of my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. In the first meditation, we saw that how to love, we have to step back from our own desires, that these small sacrifices mirror, to a greater or lesser extent, the example we have in Jesus, that our God is a truly humble God who gives up infinite power to be born in a stable, to come down to our level, to be in true relationship with us. What we can also see in the Corinthians passage are generosity and vulnerability. Verse 7 speaks to us about the vastness of love. This is truly unconditional love, which bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, a love that never ends. To say, I love you, and it doesn't matter what you do, I love you forever, requires the loving person to make themselves utterly vulnerable, to be generous, to hold nothing back. This extravagant love, for me, is fundamentally illustrated in God's incarnated creation. As St. Paul puts it in his letter to the Romans, chapter 1, verses 19 to 20, God's eternal power and divine nature have been seen through the things he has made. I can't say to someone who doesn't have a relationship with God, there you are, look at that exquisite flower, that proves God exists. But I know deeply and irrevocably that when I look at a dahlia in bloom, with its intricate mathematical complexity and perfection, that this is a gift springing from God's unbounded love for me and all of us, that the God of the colossal, incarnational power of the Big Bang that created our beautiful earth within an immeasurable universe is the infinitely humble and infinitely generous God, infinitely generous enough to the extent that every last tiny detail of our created world given to us is perfect out of love for us. Of course, the world isn't all about flowers, and it's in the more mundane things, and indeed in pain and suffering, that I think we are shown our incarnated, infinitely loving God most clearly. At an everyday level, think about the battalions of people who make our lives comfortable and good. People working through the night in terrible weather so that our roads are fixed and our power stays on. The people in our shops who cheerfully serve us, often with kindness and patience, way beyond what might be expected. And the example of our healthcare professionals. My daughter Harriet is a sister in intensive care. The pandemic has been a huge thing for her and her colleagues. Alongside the pain and suffering, there are amazing depths of kindness and compassion, where they have set aside thought for themselves to cure and ease suffering. And in extreme cases, to be alongside people, often their own colleagues, accompanying and easing their journey through death to the next world. Here truly are Jesus' hands and feet, God incarnated on earth. Once again, in a moment, there'll be an opportunity for silent reflection. If you would like to, try to recall something that for you expresses God's eternal power and divine nature, to recall St. Paul in the Romans quotation. It might be something beautiful, a flower, a beautiful view, or it might be an example of love or service. Explore in your thoughts and prayer these expressions of God here with us, of his never-ending love for us. Spend a few minutes in silent reflection now. The final part of our contemplation continues to think about love incarnated on earth. I'll read the Corinthians verses one more time. If I speak in the tongue of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not boastful or envious or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. We talk about the body of Christ, and I'd like to explore what that might mean for our daily lives. In the Richard Rohr Daily Meditation for Christmas Day 2019, Matthew Fox paraphrases the words of the 14th century mystic Meister Eckhart. What good is it to me if Mary gave birth to the Son of God 1400 years ago, and I do not give birth to the Son of God in my own person and time and culture? We are all meant to be mothers of God. This surely is a huge thing, both an immense responsibility to incarnate God's very presence on this earth, but also it's an opportunity for transformative love in our lives. As Richard Rohr says, the full meaning of Christmas is that this one universal mystery of divine incarnation is also intended for us and continuing in us. It is not just about trusting the truth of the body of Jesus, but trusting its extension through the ongoing body of Christ. The Trappist monk Thomas Merton wrote extensively about love. He created a wonderful image to explain how love's transformational cycle works. He said that by loving our neighbour, by showing kindness and patience, by putting another person before ourselves, we draw the thread of love through our neighbour's soul and our own soul to sew ourselves together in one Christ. We become the body of Christ, Christ's incarnation on earth, when we act in a loving way. Merton goes on to say that this act of extending love to another person draws out mysterious spiritual values in that person, who in turn responds with love, perhaps towards someone else, a process that draws forth the image and reality of Christ. We've surely seen this working, the way that loving behaviour invariably generates more love. Here's a seemingly trivial example. When I'm driving, I try to be courteous to other drivers. For example, if it's appropriate, I try to give way to another driver wanting to join the line of traffic I'm in, or wanting to turn across my driving path. I always check my rear view mirror after doing that, and invariably the driver in the car behind me does the same thing that I've just done. Seemingly, seeing me being kind to another motorist had reminded that person to do the same thing. And whilst our acts of kindness may seem random, they are by no means trivial. Richard Rohr, in his Christmas meditation, goes on to say, as we have become incarnated in the body of Christ, the resurrected Jesus' hands and feet, that our loving acts alone have the power to change history, society, and all relationships. You might have heard the phrase "kingdom on the streets." It's something that's very close to the heart of the Northumbria community where I'm a member. It's a powerful thought in these days where it appears that the vast majority of the population gives no thought to a relationship with God. That we are bringing the kingdom to the streets around us, sewing our own soul and our neighbour's soul together in one Christ. Our loving acts, whether they move mountains or whether they just extend friendship to someone at the bus stop, are building the kingdom where we are. Love never ends. In a moment, there'll be our final opportunity for silent reflection. In this quiet time, can I suggest that you take the phrase, "I love you," as the centre of your meditation. As you breathe in, say to yourself, "I love you," imagining that it is God Himself who is saying this phrase directly into your very heart. As you breathe out, say again, "I love you." This time it is you speaking directly to God. As you breathe in, feel the deep assurance of God's presence within your being. As you breathe out, let go of everything that you are. Empty yourself entirely into the ever-loving arms of God. Spend a few minutes in silent reflection now.